What does it really take to build a multi-million dollar real estate empire and a top tier personal brand before turning 30? For Brian Tran, it started with grit, authenticity, and a willingness to knock on doors no one else would. From cold calls to content that converts, his journey proves that consistency and ownership can unlock common success. Welcome to the Podcasting Secrets Show, where successful creators share their best stories, secrets, and strategies. I'm your host, Nathan Gwilliam. Hello, incurable creators. Today's guest is Brian Tran, serial entrepreneur, real estate investor, and the host of the Winners Club podcast. As the founder of 50 Hills, one of San Francisco's top performing real estate brokerages, Brian built a multi-million dollar portfolio before the age of 30. But his influence goes far beyond real estate. Through his podcast, viral content, and mission-driven ventures, Brian empowers ambitious builders and dreamers to redefine what it means to win. With more than 200,000 followers across platforms and guests ranging from eight-figure entrepreneurs to elite athletes, he's created a platform that blends mindset, money, and meaning. Whether you're chasing your first deal or your next big move, or your purpose, Brian's story and his strategies will challenge and inspire you. Thanks for joining us today, Brian.
Wow. Thank you, Nathan. Really glad and happy to be on board and sharing my story with your audience.
Can you start off by sharing with us something that most people don't know about you?
Oh, boy. I'm an open book. Everything I do is on social media, so people get what they see.
Yeah.
On Instagram, on TikTok. But I guess a lot of people don't know that I'm actually kind of a little bit more calm and quiet, I think, outside of the social media, right? Like it has to be catchy, it has to be loud. And so people think that I'm always just like ball of energy 24/7. But the truth is that I get tired too. I have two kids and very much a family man trying to juggle everything. So for those of you guys who watch my stuff and those of you guys who are going to start following me, just know that, hey, I don't have everything figured out either. And at the end of the day, we're just trying to learn and get 1% better every single day.
I love that. I love that you're a family man. That resonates a lot with me. Can you tell us a little bit more about your family and kind of what motivates you to do what you do?
I would say that my family's, they're not my main motivation. I'm very lucky because I come from an immigrant family. And so, I saw my parents struggle growing up. So I've always had the motivation to just really strive and do better for the family, right? Not just my immediate family now. But of course, I had kids at a fairly young age. 27 was when my son was born. And I had to make sure that he was good. And then shortly after that, I had my daughter at 29. And, kids in the Bay Area is very expensive. So yeah, I just had to make sure they have enough. They have my time. And I want them to be great human beings. They're a lot of fun. I think that it's up to me to make sure they're good people, But ultimately at 18, I've heard this too. At 18, you cross your fingers and you pray. But from now until then, I want to make sure they have the good morals, the good ethics, and just go out and have the tools that they can dominate with.
Yeah. And that they feel lots of love from you. And
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Tell us about your journey. Tell us where all of this started to this road to become a successful entrepreneur and podcaster. Where did it begin?
I would say you have to go back very early on. And so I like to say that I was very aware at a young age. Right. I wasn't just like going through life and like la-di-da, everything's fine, everything's perfect. Right. I actually saw my parents working long hours and I knew that the neighborhood we were living in growing up wasn't the best neighborhood. Right. I've witnessed getting robbed. I've witnessed our windows getting shot out. And, I knew that this wasn't right. And so even at a young age, I knew that no matter what, I have to do something, make money, and become successful. Now, that definition of success is now much different than back then, but I just knew that, look, got to get a good job, got to go make some money so that we can get out of here, right? And that I didn't want to live like this forever. And I remember watching the show 90210 on, I think the channel 44 or CW, something like that, way back when we didn't have cable. And I just remember seeing like these kids, beautiful homes, swimming pool in the back, driving a convertible down Rodeo or something, whatever it was. And I'm like, I want that. Right. And I just knew that whatever your mind focuses on, you will figure it out. And I just kept asking myself, how do I become successful? How do I make more money? And then, of course, I picked up the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad at a very young age.
What a great book. Yeah.
Didn't understand a thing about it. I just remember understanding assets and liabilities. But then I just kept reading it every year. And I just remember like by middle school, I was like, I gotta be, in the investor portal or at least the business sector, right? His 4 quadrants. And that's really what it was. Fast forward, I wasn't very good at school, right? I call that my blessing and my curse. I don't like to read. I don't like to study, but I just knew what my strengths were. And that was to be able to talk, to be able to sell. And I knew that I couldn't work for anyone. So I've never actually had a job. That's actually something I should have shared earlier on. I've never worked a job that I wasn't the boss of, right? Now, I've had all types of jobs. I've owned coffee shops. I've done real estate sales. I've been a janitor. I've ran Airbnbs, but they were all mine. And I had to do every single role underneath those businesses. So nothing is beneath me. I would do anything, but I've never worked for anyone, right? Except for my clients at some point, but that's kind of the journey. I think I know I skipped a lot of stuff, but I just couldn't. My dad wanted me to be a lawyer. Not smart enough.
Yeah, that's one where you have to read a whole bunch too. Yeah. If you don't love reading, you're probably not going to be an attorney.
And so I went out and I said, okay, well, what can I do? And that's when being a realtor was presented to me. And it wasn't easy. 21, 22 years old, trying to sell
trying to get credibility.
Trying to get the credibility. And I just had to grind it out, go knock on doors like you mentioned, pick up the phone and call people, because that was the only way that you can get in front of people where they didn't know how old I was, right? Because they can't. On the phone, I'm anybody. And that's what it was. And again, going back and learning what Rich Dad, Poor Dad was, I just saved my money and I kept investing it. It started off in real estate. Then I ventured off into owning coffee shops, which I still have today. And then we opened up numerous companies, which I still have today, and just compounded, right? And we just started building. And until this day, I still do it. I still invest a very big portion of my income on building, just trying to take it to the next level.
Yeah. Okay, I've written down a whole bunch of questions here I want to ask you based on what you've explained so far. So first of all, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I love that book. There's a few books that I think are so important. I have 3 daughters that are now all adults. I will pay any of my daughters $50 if they will read and give me a report on these books that I think are life transformational books. And that's one of them that I've given them is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I love that book. What has resonated most for you out of that book? What did you take out of that's helped you in your career the most?
I think the biggest thing is just understanding what is a liability and what is an asset. And once that is ingrained in your body, it gets very hard for you to buy liabilities. And I like nice things, but that helps when you have that delayed gratification. You're like, okay, well, I can go buy the Lamborghini today, or
it's a liability.
It's a lot. I mean, and there are many people that you'll see online that said this is an asset. It's an asset because it gets attention and all that stuff. Sure, whatever. I'm not going to argue that, but for the vast majority of people, it's a liability, right?
So explain to the audience that concept for Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Pretend they've never read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Explain it.
I love this. Okay, so and again, at a very early age, this is what stuck to me was that an asset puts money in your pocket every month, every day. A liability takes money out of your pocket every day. And so, which one would you rather have? Money in your pockets or money going out, right? And I think if you understand that concept, you will stop buying dumb stuff. I think that's the number one. And that was like, And that's still something that I do today. And that's still something that I struggle with, even though I have the money to buy probably a lot of junk. But it's just that. It's like, can my money go to something better that will allow me to put more money in my pocket, help my family, maybe go spend and then allow me to spend more on basically experiences and not things.
Yeah, that's right. I learned this lesson when I was a young kid. We had, at the same time, Atari was a really big thing. We had an Intellivision. It was the competitor to Atari, and you used a little circle controller, and they had a game on Intellivision when I was a kid called Utopia, and you had you and your competitor had islands, and you could put things on your island, and there were things that were assets and there were things that were liabilities, and you learned really quickly that the way to win the game is you had to get things like factories and fishing fleets and things on your island that every round brought you money. Because there were certain things you could put on your land that every round cost you money. If you did those, you quickly wouldn't have any money to do anything else. But if you bit the bullet at the beginning and made the hard decisions to put the assets on your island, then you quickly had enough money that you could get everything else, right? You had the money to make the other purchases, but you have to invest in the assets first.
It's funny you brought up that game. I think of two games that I played growing up that pretty much summed up what you learned from your game. It was Monopoly. Monopoly, right? Very easy. And then also SimCity. So SimCity was very intricate in the sense that you were running your own little city, and if you like, certain things cost money and certain things brought in money. And so, games are good. My parents always said, don't play games, but if you play the right games, it does.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Another thing I want to talk to you about is growing up in a home with humble means. I grew up in a similar situation, maybe not exactly like yours, but, and I've been part of some networking groups that have of some wealthy people. And there's a lot of conversations around these wealthy people who don't want to mess up their kids. Their biggest fear is that their money is going to mess up their kids. It's going to create this entitlement, and their kids aren't going to want to work. I heard a story of this one very wealthy guy. I'm sure most of the listeners know a company he created, and his son turned 18, and it's time to go to college. And his son says, "Why do I need to go to college? I'm going to inherit what you've got. I'm not going to go to college." And so his dad did the best thing that he could possibly do. He sat him down and said, "My job is to support you as long as you're progressing. And if you're not progressing, I'm done supporting you. You need to go and get a job and take care of yourself." And so the kid moved out and got a job, and within a month he was enrolled in college and on the right path, right? And so many successful entrepreneurs, so many of those people in those successful networking groups of the most successful entrepreneurs grew up with very humble means. And so many entrepreneurs who have been very successful end up messing up their kids, and their kids feel entitled, and their kids don't feel hungry and don't, figure out the way to create something like you did. Do you want to talk about that, all about the blessing in your life, maybe that came from growing up humble?
I really love this topic, and by no means am I an expert because my kids are still young, so I don't have a track record for being able to raise super successful kids. So do take what I say with a grain of salt. But every time I do meet somebody successful with kids that are not effed up, I do ask for a lot of advice, because this is something that I fear as well. I don't want my kids to grow up entitled, lazy, or worse, right? Like doing a bunch of drugs and on the streets. So that is something that I do fear a lot. And one thing that I've learned is that they will never have the same sympathy that I have, because I've been able to experience it. But as long as they can have the empathy to see it and understand it, then they will be better off than just being sheltered and in our beautiful home and my kids
giving them everything they possibly would want. Yeah.
And so my thing is, number one, communication has always been a very big thing with my children. And they're young. My son's almost 7. My daughter's 4.5. But I speak to them like they're adults, whether they understand it or not, which most of the time it goes over my daughter's head. But you'd be very surprised to what actually sticks. And it comes back when they start to understand it. Years later on, they're going to remember this conversation. So I do explain to them what's happening. I explain to them the work. I explain to them how money works. I talk to them. I'm an open book. I grew up not really knowing what my parents made. I grew up not really understanding much, but for me, I'm explaining everything. I explain to them how I make money. I take them to work with me, right? And I try to expose them to a lot, right? The good and the bad, so that they can have perspective. For example, I usually go back to Vietnam. That's where my family's from, once a year. And I do take my kids with me. And I always take them to the orphanage because I do a lot of charity work
Yep.
there.
We do that almost every single international trip. We go to
That was
orphanages
the
with our kids.
best thing.
It's their favorite part of our trips. Of everything we do is going to those orphanages.
And my son was young. He doesn't understand. And my daughter's even younger. And she walks through. She goes, "Mommy, Daddy, what's this?" I said, "These kids don't have parents. You see, like how you get to have a room and you have a bunch of toys. There's no toys. There are literally 20 kids in a small room, and they're just there. That's all they have. They have each other, right?" And like I said, I didn't think they would catch on, but I asked my daughter and my son every single time. I said, and I pull out some money. I said, "Look, I can take this money and I can buy you toys, or I can give this to the kids in Vietnam." And they actually chose to give the money to the kids in Vietnam. And that's when I said, okay, well, I need to show them more. I can't just tell them, right? They need to see it, to believe it, to understand it. And I won't give up. I'm going to continue to do that. And I'm going to continue to just talk about it, right? Like tough subjects, talk about it.
And even more than see it, they need to do it. They need to go help take care of those kids in the orphanage. They need to go help build a school. They need to go help drill a well, right? These projects that they're passionate about, they need to give of their time and work to help improve them.
I'm thinking that's how I can help them understand that nothing is given. Nothing is like, you're not entitled to anything. You got to go out and work. At least that's how I'm going to show them that aspect. And then when I do take them out to work and I do take them around what I do and they understand it, I think that's going to show them you have to work for money. It doesn't just fall from the sky and we're so lucky, like any of that. So those are some of the steps I'm doing now, right? To hopefully not mess up my kids.
Yeah. I remember as a young kid, my dad had an office and I got a job as a janitor in his office, and he would take me to his office at night to go do the work, but I would do all the janitorial work and he'd just go do work there.
Yeah.
And my siblings helped me do it most of the nights. And I learned that if I wanted to buy things that I wanted, I needed to work for it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a very powerful lesson that we can help our kids. Is we should not buy them everything they want. We should support them and help them, like my dad took me to work. But I think we've got to help them learn to work and work hard so they know they can go earn what they need.
Yeah. That's a lot. I mean, there's so much more, and I'm learning. I try to do that with my staff, my employees, some young mentees that I have, and it seems to be doing pretty good, right? I don't need them to be my friend. I need them to respect me, and they need to respect what we're doing and what we're building. And so I think that's something that people have to learn, and it's very hard to do. Especially, I think that's something that we struggle with very much so at my company now, is that sometimes you want to be liked. I have a lot of employees, and sometimes you want them to invite you to the happy hour. You want them to invite you to the dinners and all that stuff that they do, but they don't, because sometimes you're a little blunt, you're a little mean, right? Yeah. I don't look at it that way. I look at it like, look, I want you to be successful. I want you to hit your dreams. I want you to hit your goals, and it's not going to do you any good by just patting you on the back and telling you that you're doing a good job when you're not. Yeah. And so that's something that we struggle with, and that's the thing that I struggle with my kids, because I tell them, I'm like, they try to, you try to baby them, but I don't, right? And my wife, I was like, oh, yeah, that was a little rough, but I am a father that says, I love you a lot. I didn't grow up hearing that very much. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I do tell them, I love you. I love you. I give them a lot of kisses, so they know.
And here's some ways that you need to improve, right?
They know that they're loved, but I mean, look, you're not. I'm not going to tell you you're good at soccer if you suck. You know what I mean? But I won't tell him he suck because he's still young. I say, hey, we got to improve. We got to run. We got to train. and I'll run with him. I'm a big believer that,
Yeah, that's right.
I'm
We
not.
support them in their dreams, but we be truthful. And honestly, the best friends, the most trusted voices we have in our lives are the people that will tell us the truth, even if it's hard, right? We need to know that truth. We have to have it reflected to us.
Yeah. And then the last thing I'm gonna leave the listener with is that show, don't tell. Show,
Yeah,
do it.
agreed.
Like I see a lot of parents tell that, like, very harsh example, but the kid's not in good shape. And then and all I do, I'm sitting there and I'm watching the parent go, hey, you need to go for a walk. You need to go for a run. You need to go eat better. And then I look at the parents and I say, well, you need to eat better. You need to go on exercise because the kid's watching you, right? You can't, it's just hypocritical. So that's it. And I do
All
that.
right.
And it translates to business too.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's move on and let's talk about your podcast and your personal brand. So you have more than 200,000. You have an audience of more than 200,000 with your personal brand, and you have a podcast that reaches 8 and 9-figure entrepreneurs, athletes, creators. You're very successful in that space. Can you tell us about your journey to get started in that space?
The journey sucked, just like anything else you do when you don't know what you're doing. I was stuck and the progress was very stagnant. And so for anyone listening and your podcast isn't taking off or your Instagram isn't growing and your TikTok's not growing, just understand that it takes time. Unless you were, in that space already and you like editing and you like telling stories, it's very hard. But just don't give up. And you have to study it and learn. And just like any skills, you get better and better and better. And one of the beautiful things about social media that a lot of people don't understand is that it's very much public speaking, but sometimes it's just your audience is a phone. But little do you know, all the viewers who are watching you, like, you start to get better at it. And so don't give up. And for the longest time, I was stuck. And then I just started to analyze the videos, study the statistics, watch other people and see what they do, how they say it, their scripts, their hooks. And I just copied.
Today's episode of Podcasting Secrets is brought to you by Pod Allies, the done-for-you podcasting services solution. When I speak with CEOs about their podcast, one of the most common comments that I hear is that they know they need a podcast, but they don't have time. Have you ever wondered how some businesses find a way to still run their podcasts while juggling their crazy day-to-day operations? The secret might be simpler than you think. Let me introduce you to Pod Allies. This is a service that's changed the game for businesses in the podcasting world. Pod Allies is a done-for-you podcast production and marketing service. They understand that while many businesses understand the immense value podcasting can have for their business, finding time to produce, syndicate, promote, and monetize a show can be challenging. Pod Allies offers a dedicated team to handle virtually all aspects of your podcast production. From strategy and branding to audio and video editing and guest scheduling, they've got you covered. They even take care of creating blog posts, transcripts, and syndicating your content across multiple platforms. What sets Pod Allies apart is their use of PodUp, their proprietary podcasting software suite. This allows them to streamline the entire podcasting process, saving you time, effort, and a bunch of money. If you're ready to become a thought leader, connect with your audience, and grow your business through podcasting without all of the investment of time and cost of doing it yourself, Pod Allies might be the perfect solution for you. To learn more or to schedule a free consultation with a podcast expert, visit podallies.com. That's podallies.com. Now back to the show. Okay, you've just given us a formula right here. I want to stop. I want to make sure everybody understands what you said. So you were stuck. We all get stuck in our podcasting journey. We all get stuck in building our entrepreneurial business. We all get stuck in building our personal brand. That is normal. That is part of the process. And he just gave you the formula. Brian, will you repeat just one more time? What is the formula to get unstuck?
I'm going to say, watch what other people are doing and copy it.
Yeah, successful people. Find the people that have already arrived where you want to go and then copy it. Is that cheating to copy what someone else is doing?
No. I mean,
no, it's not
that way. But let me be honest with you. Once you study what the greats do, they all follow very much the same blueprint, right? And so, of course, in the beginning, it's going to feel very unnatural because you're feeling like you are copying. Now, don't copy word for word what they're saying because that is plagiarism, right? We learned that early on in school. You have to take it, incorporate it,
Put it in your own words,
into your
make it
word
work for your audience. Yeah.
until you find your voice, until you find your style. And that's what it is. It's funny that you brought that up because I was just watching a Dan Martell video and he's huge right now. And he was in one of his caption, or the video I clicked was 0 to 3 million followers in 18 months. And one of the first thing he says is that he scrolls TikTok, which I was surprised. And he goes, and I'm watching the people, like the trends and what they're doing. And then I'm researching, duplicating, and that's what it is.
Yep. Yeah, you see lots of people say it in different words, but they're teaching the same thing. Like Russell Brunson, he's another one that I love.
Yeah.
And he calls it funnel hacking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically you find another funnel that's working really well and is really successful, and then you create a version of that. When I did my MBA, they called it R&D, rip off and design, right? Find another business that does it really well, and then you design it to work for you, right? It's a really good formula to get unstuck. Who's doing it well? What's my biggest problem? What's the biggest thing I need to achieve to be successful, to take that next step? Okay, who's doing it well? Okay, learn everything I can about them, and now modify it to work for me.
I couldn't agree more. That's exactly right. And it's just hard because I know it sounds like it's cheating, but it's not. It's really not.
It's not.
There's nothing in this world that is really new. It is literally a variation of knowledge and books that have been around forever, right? And I'm not saying I'm a big reader, but a lot of these success books, they all start to sound the same, right? And that's because they are. They just add and tweak, and maybe the way that this author had written it might resonate with you more. And that's what podcasting and that is what social media really is. You're not going to appeal to everybody. You're going to find your tribe and you're going to find your vibe. That's it. Or you're going to find your vibe that then attracts your tribe.
Yeah. Okay. Today I was dealing with a podcaster who he started his show. He has very little traffic, very little influence, and he's wanting to go after very high level guests. And we're trying to explain to him, okay, you might get a few of those to say yes, but you got to start off with similar sized guests. What advice do you have for somebody who's maybe shooting a little bit too high, or maybe they're not? How do you get to a spot you can get these high level guests that you have on your show? How long does that take?
I think a lot of it is, shoot for the moon, sure. But the thing is that in order to get these high level guests, you kind of have to have a following. You kind of have to have an audience already. Let's just be honest, unless you're going to pay them, right? And some
That's
of them
right.
for money, but I don't like to do that. And so, believe it or not, it is better to start small, because then you'll slowly level up your skills. But also, believe it or not, the people that are already following you might get a better value and enjoy your show more when you're interviewing the local bakery or the
That's right.
owner at the coffee shops. I think that's actually better. And so, and it would work. People think, because people are always thinking shortcuts. I get it. I know where they are. I was there too. I was like, well, I want to get there faster. But sometimes your skills aren't there to get the big names. You got to get reps in. I hope that, it's probably not the advice they want to hear, but hey, because I can't tell you, that's what I did, right? And I only speak on what I've done, which is.
And as you get bigger and bigger, you can shoot for bigger and bigger guests. Yeah. They're doing it because they want something in return. And that in return either has to be they're going to get a bunch of audience from your show, a bunch of reach from being on your show, or they're going to be looking for money, or they're going to ignore you, right?
That's right.
When I advise people on starting off and getting guests, I usually advise reach out to people you have personal connections with that'll do it because they like you and want to help you. That's your first group you should reach out to. And then your second group, I love going out to authors, because authors usually have very little reach and they want to do anything they can to promote their book. And so usually it's really easy to get authors on your show. And then you go out to like small influencers or small speakers, small experts in your space, right? That have a voice, that have something important to say. Maybe they've spoken at a trade show, but they don't have a podcast of their own. They don't have a lot of audience. That's your next group. And then as you do this, you're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then pretty soon you can go after bigger influencers and bigger podcasters, and they'll start saying yes when you ask them.
I agree.
Any thoughts? Okay.
I mean, that's really what it is. And so we're going to be interviewing a pretty big name in August, but he would have never said yes if I didn't have the followings and the reach, really. And so that's what you guys have to expect. I mean, it's reciprocal, right?
And then once you get a couple of those big names, then you like play on those big names whenever you invite somebody, right? You give them 3 big names whenever you give them an ask. Yeah. Okay. Tell me about your secret sauce. What is your greatest secret to success in the success that you've achieved?
The greatest secret sauce is that you have to understand you can't do this alone, right?
Yeah.
You may have to do it alone in the beginning because you lack resources, whether it be skills or money. But, you know, at some point, if you want to scale it up big and not burn yourself out, you need to bring great people into your organization, whether through partnerships or staff or, you know, even now I have a full-time videographer. I have a full-time media outreach and inbound person. It didn't start that way, but when you start to grow and you start to make a little bit more money or whatever it is, don't go and buy the liabilities just yet. Reinvest the money, reinvest it into people, and watch it compound, and it will compound a lot quicker. And so go ahead. One of my greatest strengths is being able to form teams that work very well together with a common purpose, a common goal, and boom, we all rise together. And that's what I do. And that's how I run all my companies, right? I give equity, and, you know, people ask me all the time, like, how do you run 9 companies? And I say, I don't run 9 companies. I'm involved at different levels, but they all have their own CEOs. They all have their own COOs, and they run, and I'm just here kind of running around and jumping in where I need to be.
Yeah. And one thing I love, earlier in the conversation, you were talking about how, you know, there's some things you're really good about. Like, you're really good at talking. You're really good at selling, you know, getting people excited. You may not be really good at reading and writing a blog post or something like that.
Yeah.
And so some of those first hires we might look at are the things that we might say, this is not my superpower, right? And every successful entrepreneur has things that are their kryptonite, right? They focus on their superpowers, and your first hire should be the people that can take care of your kryptonite for you.
Exactly.
Any thoughts on that?
No, you have to. Because, I mean, a lot of people that are burnt out, when I ask them why, and we look at their calendars and we look at their activities, it's because they're doing things they don't love. They do things they don't like. Now, I'm not saying I love everything I do in my schedule, but for the most part, I'm doing what I'm good at, and I'm doing what I like. And the rest,
that's right,
somebody else is doing. You know?
That helps invigorate you too. It helps the days go a lot faster, and so much easier when you're not having to trudge through it.
And don't get me wrong, there will be a time and there will be days that you have to just, you know,
mini days,
okay, and eat crap. There's always going to be days like that. Hell, the whole month of July was like that for me, right? Everything just going all over the place, and you have to go in. You got to damage control, but for the most part, I don't do what I don't like.
Yeah. Okay. You have 9 businesses. You're a very successful entrepreneur. You're making a lot of money. You still are investing all this time in your podcast and your personal brand that may not directly make you money for everything that you do. Why are you doing it? Why are you making that investment? What are the biggest benefits that are coming to you and your businesses from having this podcast and personal brand?
I think the coolest thing about having the podcast, and I love the podcast the most, is because I can now bring on great guests that would normally never come and hang out. But during a podcast where you can speak to someone for an hour, 2 hours, you're building a great relationship. And so when people ask, like, why am I even doing this social media thing in the first place? Like, don't get me wrong. For the longest time, I was losing money on social media because I have to hire the videographer, the editors, the thumbnail people, the whole shebang, right? But I know that it is worth it because in this it's all in your network, and that will increase your net worth. And by reaching more people, and now the 200,000 followers that we have, it opens doors, right? You don't have to say yes to every single opportunity, but at least now those doors are being presented to me that would have never been presented. And so that's why you do social media. This is the day and age where attention, audience is the new gold and the new oil.
Yeah.
You have to do it. And if you're not doing it, sure. Like, can you be successful? Absolutely. You can. But this is like that extra boost, the nitrous in your car that will just keep going. And it's nice. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's nice going into networking rooms and all this stuff, and not have to repeat who I am and what I do. It's like, it's golden. I'm in the real estate space, and I'm probably one of the most known in the Bay Areas when it comes to flipping and buying and selling real estate.
It's a big area to be the number one.
Well, I'm not number one, but people think I am because my content is just like boom, boom, boom. I'm everywhere. Everything we do, it's like out there. So when I go into these conventions and these conferences, I don't have to go and say, hey, I'm Brian. I'm from the Bay Area. This is what I do. They go, hey, Brian, I already know. And then they say, hey, Brian, I want you to meet so-and-so. How powerful is that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Think about that when people are like, your fellow business owners that's listening to this podcast and saying, I'm good, I don't need it. Like, it's just, again, you might not need it, but it does help a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What is one of the hardest things, the most painful things that you've had to go through in your podcasting and business journey? And how did you get through it?
The hardest part is in the beginning.
Yeah.
When you don't see the results, when you don't go into a room and people know who you are, when you spent hours editing, shooting, paying all these people to do it, or maybe you did it on your own and you spent all that time and it doesn't do well, right? Like, of course, like, that's going to be the hardest part. And if people think like, oh, they think I didn't experience it, I just don't show it, because the thing is that I know that it's always the hardest in the beginning, like all the businesses we started. But if you stay at something long enough, you'll be successful. And what it comes down to is being able to control your mind. And that's why people always say mindset, mindset, mindset. You don't need a mindset when things are good. You need a strong mindset when things are bad and things don't go your way, and it feels like you're not moving the needle at all. That's when you need to have a little bit of faith, and you need to just continue to focus on the activity and not the results. That's it.
Explain that a little bit more. You talk about having this strong mindset. What does that mean specifically? How do we do that?
Well, one of the first things I learned in real estate was that your subconscious mind is the strongest, right? That's what happens when things don't go right. It's that little voice in the back of your head that tells you, you're not good enough. Or in my case, it tells me that I am good enough. But I was told to speak to myself in a positive manner. Write down in your journal who you want to be, what you want to accomplish, and you need to talk. You need to have positive self-talk, right? The most successful people I know always have very positive self-talk. They're always, uplifting themselves. They're not relying on outside noises to tell them who they are and whether they're doing good or not, right? And so, it sounds very cliche, but get a journal. Every morning, the first thing you should do is write down, like, I'm good enough. The work that I'm doing for my podcast is moving the needle X, Y, and Z. Like, you have to strengthen that portion. Otherwise, when things don't go right, you're going to want to quit. That's what I mean by mindset. Like, like I said, this July was rough. And and there were countless times when I had to tell myself, we're moving the needle. We're every day that is bad is one day closer to being good. That's mindset. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
And I would say sometimes, like, I don't rely on this, but I do listen to other podcasts and other YouTubes where people are saying, like, it's hard. And then it makes me feel a little bit better that, oh, you're right. It's supposed to be hard. Because if it was easy, everybody would have it. Everybody would.
And everything in life that's really great, that really matters, that's really worth it, is on the other side of hard. It's not on the other side of easy.
Yeah. It's
Okay, I love this concept of affirmations. When I was a little kid, I had a really hard challenge that I was facing. One of the biggest challenges I was facing, and I decided, this is a young kid, maybe 10 or something. Um, every day I was gonna like say 100 times. I came up with an affirmation, and I just say it to myself 100 times, and I conquered that. I got through it, and it changed my life. Um, and I'm a big believer in that. So I have not done that in years, and I just wrote myself a note that I totally need to start doing that again. I need to,
change it a little bit. Change the goal, because I'm sure
yeah,
you're way
something that
past that now.
I am, and the best ones I think are like these I am statements, right? Of who we want to be, who are trying to become. I love your I am good enough. You know, any other suggestions on affirmations?
I mean, it's right when you were saying your part. I remember I wish for the same thing every birthday. I am not going to share it because it hasn't come true
Yeah,
yet, but
same thing. I'm not sharing mine.
but I'm just saying I wish for the same thing to remind me that that's what we're gunning for, and that's what that's all we're doing, everything that we're doing, right?
Yeah,
I don't know. It's every coaching that I've had has always started off with a journal, and the phrases may be different, but it was always just like write that 100 times.
yeah, every day.
Well, I found it,
and
and I don't mean that. I'm not going to say the dollar amount, but when I was selling real estate, I was in this program, and every morning they said write it down from top to bottom. I will make blank in 2000 something, or I think at the time it was like 2018, whatever it was. And I found the journal when I was moving recently, and I said, like I'm past this, right? But at the time of writing those lines, I never thought I would make that much.
Yep,
But it's so crazy that, you write it down and then you stop self-sabotaging. I think that's what it is too. It's like a
that's
reminder.
right. Yeah. We hear so many negative voices in our lives, right? We tell ourselves so many negative things, and if we can just overwhelm that with positive messages, it really does make a difference to believe in ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, I've loved this. If our audience has enjoyed this episode, like I have, Brian, and they want to learn more about you and your products and services, your channels, what are the best ways for them to do that?
You can look me up on Instagram or TikTok, Mr. Brian Tran. That's MrBrianTran. You'll find me there, talking about real estate mostly. And I sprinkle in a little bit about my family and the cool stuff that I do. Or you can find the podcast, the Winners Club podcast, where I talk about not just wins. I think people think about that and say, oh, we're only going to share wins. No, actually, we share the learning experience, because our tagline is that even when we don't win, we learn. And learning is a form of winning. And that's something I truly believe.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, I fail a lot. I think the reason why I am successful is because I fail a lot. And then people might think of that and hear that and be like, what the heck? How are you successful? You keep failing. Well, the thing is that the more you fail, as long as you don't fail at the same things, and you learn from it, and you just become bigger and stronger, right? You learn how to overcome obstacles. And that's what my podcast is aimed to do. I mean, I just want to help people learn and not make the same mistakes I did. And so that they can just go out and enjoy a life younger, better, faster, richer, whatever. I like to see people win, but just
I love that.
That way,
win or learn. They're both wins.
That's it. That's what we aim to do. And
Thank you.
And you focus on that. You focus on helping people. You will get what you want. I'm not saying right away. Don't expect it right away. But some of the best partnerships I've ever had has come because I helped someone 5 years ago, or I picked up the phone and I figured out a solution for somebody 8 years ago. And then they come back and they say, hey, Brian, you know what? I remember when you did so-and-so. I have this idea. I have this product. I have this real estate. I have something for you. And then, people always around me were always like, how'd you get that deal? I said, I don't know. I helped them like 10 years ago. And people just want to be around good people,
Yeah. I think that's great. Okay. Thank you so much, Brian. Thanks for adding so much value to our show today.
I appreciate you, Nathan.
And here are my key takeaways from this episode. Number 1, start small with podcast guests and build credibility over time. Number 2, study top creators to reverse engineer what works. Number 3, use your podcast to build authentic, high-value relationships. Number 4, invest in production early as a long-term business move. Number 5, reinvest profits into your team instead of buying luxuries. Number 6, delegate tasks so you can focus on your strengths. Number 7, lead by example, especially with your team and your kids. Number 8, stay consistent and focus on daily action over quick wins. Number 9, treat attention and audience as your most valuable assets. And finally, number 10, see failure as fuel. Learn as a form of winning. Thanks for joining us for this episode. I wish you success in your podcast. And if you're looking for a great podcasting platform, I recommend you check out podup.com, where we have more than 50 different integrated tools to help you create, grow, and monetize your podcast. And if you want a podcast but don't think you have time, check out podallies.com, our done-for-you podcast production, marketing, and monetization service.